Well, hello, my name is Jim Sunderwirth from my swing here at the house. Nice to have you here today with me. Hey, listen, we're talking about a people. We're talking about a man. We're talking about a call. We're talking about how people learn how to be prepared to be used of God in a marvelous way. It's exciting. It's just exciting. Well, we know Moses. He was born, of the Levi tribe. His mother was a Levi, and his dad was a Levi, and so he had Levi genes in him, on him. No. Anyway, so that's just a little funny. Anyway, so I think it caught my wife by surprise. She said, you need to insert some humor, so I thought that'd be a nice little thing to do. Anyway, so then he was raised by his mama and his daddy, and his whether it be as but he learned who he was, and then in 40 years he lived in the palace, and then now he finds himself on the backside of the desert. Now it says this. He says in the 3rd chapter, it says, and Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of the Midian, and he led the flock out to the backside of the desert, and he came to a mountain. Now, why in the world? Here's what happens. The reason he is there is because he tried to do the ministry in the flesh. Now, when he tried to do the ministry in the flesh, here's what happened. Remember what we talked about, I think it was yesterday, that when he saw this Egyptian beating up or hurting the Hebrew, he looked this way and he looked that way. What was wrong with that picture? He forgot to look up. He forgot to say, God, now how do you want me to handle this? He just did it in the flesh. When you do something in the flesh, a lot of times, like what did he do? He had to bury him. Why did he bury him? Because there was guilt. Listen, in the will of God, there's no guilt. It's joy. You don't have to be run by guilt. No, he didn't have any guilt. He wouldn't have had any guilt if he did it in the Spirit of the Lord. He wouldn't have had that, but he had guilt. He looked around, and then he had to look around again. He didn't look up again. He didn't say, Lord, forgive me. He just hid what he had done. And that's crazy. And then all of a sudden he found himself striving. I mean, it brought strife. Listen, in the will of God, he said, you're a royal Peter said, you're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. A priesthood wore linen because God never wanted them to sweat. When you're in the ministry and you have to just sweat. Now, I'm not saying that you don't work when you're in the ministry. Of course you work. Of course you put your hours in. Of course you deal with people. Yes, it's labor intensive, but it's free from the heart. It's not a stress. It's not a strain. It's not, you don't sweat it. You move in the availability and the presence of the call God has called you to, and he helps you in that call. So there's no striving. Just think, he had to cover up one soldier that he had killed trying to be the deliverer in the flesh. Now think with me, and we're going to get to that place where when they leave Egypt, and Moses is leading, I'm getting a little ahead of the story here, but when he's at the sea, Mediterranean Sea, and there he is, and the army's coming behind him.
The Red Sea.
And the Red Sea, not the Mediterranean, thank you, my love, Red Sea. And anyway, so as they got there and the armies were coming behind them, God opens up the sea, and of course the children go through on dry land, and then when the armies of Pharaoh come to chase them and bring them back, God doesn't bury one. You see, when God's in it, the whole thing's taken care of. The whole enemy, the whole army was engulfed in the sea. When God does it, it's right. Well, there's when God does it, he didn't look up, so he had guilt there, and he had to strive, and as he was striving, it just seemed like it was such hard work. And then he became very fearful and had to run. So God doesn't want us to have the spirit of fear. 2 Timothy said in 1:9, he said, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. Let me tell you, when you're in the will of God, you're going to have the thoughts of God, and they're going to be sound, and it's going to be a wonderful thing. He didn't come to bring fear into our lives. And for this reason, he said, listen, there's one thing in the will of God. When you're in the will of God, there's one thing you will really have, and it's the peace. Colossians 3:15 says that let the peace of God rule. I've found out in my life, if any decision I'm getting ready to make, I may try to figure it all out, but if I don't have peace in my heart, I need to walk away. Don't ever lose your peace. No, that's the gyroscope. That's what keeps us in balance, is the peace of God, which passes all understanding. You don't know that unless you have the spirit of peace within you that helps you. Well, I went past my time again. See you tomorrow. Bye.